today I'm going to be making only Indian food for 24 hours. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Katherine and I used to live in India for several years. I mostly lived in Delhi, I lived in Jaipur, and I also lived in Lucknow. I majored in South Asian Studies in undergrad and graduate school. So I have a background in Indian history, Indian culture, and Indian languages. I speak Hindi and Urdu, and I can read and write both languages as well. And so I have this love of Indian cooking, and I thought I would challenge myself to start cooking only Indian food. And I thought I would do that with a 24-hour Indian food challenge. Let's get started with the menu.
Starting tomorrow afternoon for lunch, I'll be making Rajma Masala with rice. Then for dinner, I thought I'd make my favorite sabzi, Bhindi Masala. And for dessert, I'm going to try making a quick version of Kheer using leftover rice. And I'll end the challenge with a Marathi dish called Kanda Poha for breakfast. And of course, Masala Chai. So let's get started. So the night before the challenge, I had pre-soaked my Rajma beans. I then drained them and added enough water to cover about an inch above the beans and some salt into my Instant Pot. Then I cooked them on high pressure for 10 minutes. In the meantime, I started to prep the masala part of the Rajma. I added about half a cup of chopped red onion, and I grated in about an inch of ginger, and then I crushed in 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. Then I finally chopped up 1 serrano chili pepper and added it to the onion mix. I decided to blend everything up in my blender, but this step is definitely not necessary. So at this point, I lined up all of my spices and measured them out into individual bowls. This helped me prevent burning spices like cumin and mustard seeds. Then I added about a teaspoon of cumin seeds and then quickly added in my onion mixture. Next, I blended up my tomatoes, which happened to be baby tomatoes, and I added it to my cooked down onion mixture along with red chili powder, garam masala, coriander powder, and turmeric powder. Then I added in the Rajma beans, and I added some water along with the kasuri methi and the amchur powder, which is one of my favorite Indian spices. Next up, I cooked some basmati rice to go along with the Rajma. I rinsed out the rice a couple of times, and then I cooked it using the pot and pot method using my Instant Pot, which is my new favorite method for cooking rice. And while that was cooking, I headed out to my garden and grabbed some fresh cilantro for garnish. Then I checked up on my rice, which was ready, and plated up my Rajma. Personally, I like the Rajma on one side of the plate and rice on the other. But if you prefer, you can just add it on top of the rice. I also added a little bit of yogurt and cilantro on top. This turned out really good, so I gave it a 8 out of 10 rating. Later that day, my little niece Vivi came over and I let her try it.
Does it have peanuts?
No. She loved it and gave it a 10 out of 10. After lunch, I went to the store and picked up some okra for dinner. First, I chopped up some serrano chili peppers, onion, and garlic. Some people also use ginger here. Then I sliced the okra into 1/4-inch pieces for even frying. Then I added oil to a pan, and once the oil was hot, I added in about a teaspoon of whole cumin seeds. Then I sauteed the chopped onions, chili peppers, and garlic, and then I added my tomatoes. I let the tomatoes cook down, and then I added my spices. I added some water and then let this simmer down. I'm in a separate pan. Fry the okra until the okra is evenly browned on the edges. Then I add the cooked okra to the tomato mixture and cook for a few minutes until the okra is infused with the tomato spice mixture. I ate this with leftover basmati rice from lunch alongside some of the leftover Rajma as well. This Bhindi Masala got my highest rating of the day, a 10 out of 10. It turned out exactly how I like it. So for dessert, I decided to try a quick Kheer recipe using leftover rice, milk, and cardamom powder. I also added some chopped pistachios, cashews, and some golden raisins. And then for my own personal twist, I topped it with some fresh strawberries. Now, while I loved the idea of this recipe and how quick it was to make, it was not as good as the traditional method, which does take longer to cook. So I had to give it a 5 out of 10. So for breakfast the next morning, of course I had to make some masala chai. I started by chopping up some fresh ginger, and then I added it to a mortar and pestle along with some green cardamom and black pepper. Then I boiled some water and added some black tea along with the ginger and spices. I then added whole milk, but of course you can use oat milk too. I think that's a really good replacement. Then I added some sugar and brought the whole mixture to a boil and then strained it. If you want to know what kind of tea I use, check out the link in the description below. You can also see my personal brand of chai masala. And for the very last recipe, I made Kanda Poha. So the first step was to rinse the poha for about a minute and then just set it aside to rehydrate. Next up, I toasted some peanuts on the stove, and then I chopped some onions and some green chili. Next, I heated up some oil and added some whole cumin, black mustard seeds, turmeric, red chili powder, and then I added in the green chili and the chopped onions. Then I added in my rehydrated poha until the poha was evenly coated with the spice mixture. Oh, and of course I made a mistake that I always make. I always forget to add in the curry leaves, so I had to add them separately. I added toasted peanuts and a little bit of sugar and salt, and then I added a squeeze of lemon juice and some freshly chopped cilantro. I had a small cup of chai with the poha, and overall I gave the chai a 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, I could not give the poha a 10 out of 10 this time because I realized I slightly overcooked it and the poha ended up a little bit chewier than it should be. So because of that, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. So to end this 24-hour challenge, I ended up taking a mug of chai into my art studio where I began editing this video. So thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my recipes and seeing what I ended up eating for 24 hours. I really had a good time. If you have any suggestions for future Indian food content you'd like to see, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching to the end, and I will see you next time.